Hi, good morning. Hope you're having a lovely sunny Monday morning today. I've still got Alexa, pause it. So I've been up since 5 a.m. this morning. I'm having another cup of tea, just like I was yesterday. I'm going to put my ridiculous glasses on for this one. I tried to research a term that I heard in an Alan Watts talk once called Satyagraha. The Sanskrit meaning of the word Sachi and Graha is an epiphany, sudden realization, and also to grasp something, and also an epiphany or an atonement to truth or understanding. It doesn't exist basically in any dynastic or Taoist or Buddhist, Hindu scriptures or text. According to the internet, there is no such thing as Satyagraha. I described a type of enlightenment I experienced once, whereby what they call the prefrontal cortex, sometimes say the Gestapo of the mind, is hacked open to be able to open the brain to more kind of complex and introspective modalities of kind of experiencing your own ego, but from a fifth dimensional kind of inverted, obverse perspective. I use the metaphor of being in a cinema. You've got the eternal kind of flux and flow and dance of all of the quantum state vectors that appear at the event horizon of the thin particle duality, Heisenberg principle, bullshit, blah, 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 realm of kind of this holographic reality that we live on. And I got on to, with discussion with one of the other service users, the topic of logos. I was talking about a logo on someone's t-shirt and what that meant, but logos is a really interesting thing, and the sort of enlightenment that I experienced is a bit like being, for the whole of my life, I was sat in a cinema watching a movie, and my five senses all existed within this kind of cinema projection onto this screen of a movie, and you can't operate or exist or perceive anything outside of that. But then once you experience this kind of higher dimensional shift where you can listen to your own thoughts and view your own ego, and it's kind of paradoxical because you're thinking, well, if I'm looking at my own ego, where am I viewing that from? And I used the metaphor of it being akin to going from the auditorium or the seating in the audience of the movie to a position of being inside sorry, there's 8 o'clock, they're just doing handover, they come in and say hello sometimes and interrupt my videos. Being inside the cinema auditorium, so being in the projection room where you can see the projector from the side and you can look at yourself and kind of know thyself. It says know thyself in the Bible. I'll have a bit more tea before I talk about the Bible. Sugary cup of tea that is. Anyway, let's crack on with logos. It's really interesting. What's the classical interpretation in philosophical terms of logos? The classical interpretation of logos in philosophical terms is a multifaceted and evolved over time, but it generally refers to a fundamental principle of reason, order, and intelligibility that governs the cosmos and human thought. Here's a breakdown of its key aspects. Heraclitus, I hope I said that wrong, cosmic principle. Heraclitus is considered the first philosopher to give logos a distinct philosophical meaning. For him, the logos was not merely a word or speech, but a universal principle of order and reason that underlies all the flux and changes in the universe. It is the hidden harmony that makes sense of the constant becoming. Everything happens according to the logos, which is eternal, universal, and essential. He sometimes associated the logos with fire, seeing it as the fundamental substance and the active principle of change and order. The logos is objective and independent of human opinion, although humans can, with effort, come to understand it. The sophists, of course, 5th century BT, rhetoric and argument. The sophists shifted the focus of logos towards human discourse and augmentation. They emphasized the power of language and rhetoric, logotechnia, to persuade and influence others. For them, logos often meant reasoned speech, argument, or discourse used in public debate and legal settings. Then we got Plato. He lived from a kind of slightly unsure period of around 428 to 347 BC, maybe, we think. For him, it was reason and knowledge. So Plato connected logos with the capacity for reason and rational thought in the human soul. True knowledge for Plato involved being able to give a logos or rational account of something. To truly know something was to understand its underlying reasons and principles. While he didn't develop a fully systematic doctrine of cosmic logos in the same way as later thinkers, his emphasis on forms as the object of true knowledge and the power of reason laid the groundwork for such developments. Obviously, Platonic solids are very interesting. Vector equilibriums are great ones, just squares and triangles, and the angles and lateral pressures are all equal in every join. Aristotle, 384 to 322 BC, logic, argument, and human nature. Aristotle was a dude. Aristotle further developed the understanding of logos in relation to logic and augmentation. His works on logic, the organon, are foundational to Western thought. He defined humans as rational animals, zoon, logon, echon, I'm saying it wrong, I haven't studied philosophy, maybe I will one day, highlighting the unique capacity for reason and the ability to express it through language as a defining characteristic of humanity. For Aristotle, logos also referred to the content of speech, the reasoned argument used to persuade in rhetoric. He saw rhetoric as the art of discovering the available means of persuasion in any given case, and logos, logical argument, was one of those three modes of persuasion, along with ethos and pathos, of course. The Stoics, 3rd century BCE onwards, the divine reason. The Stoics developed a comprehensive and influential concept of the logos as the divine reason or active principle that pervades and orders the entire universe. They saw logos as immanent in nature, and the soul of the world is how they described it, responsible for its structure, order, and purpose. It was often identified with God, nature, or providence. The logos was also seen as a source of universal law and morality, and human reason was considered as a spark or participation in this divine logos. Living according to nature for the Stoics meant living in accordance with the rational order of the cosmos, guided by the logos within. They also distinguished between the internal logos, the capacity for reason in the human mind, and the external logos, the universal principle governing the cosmos. In summary, the classical interpretation of logos in philosophy encompasses a fundamental principle of reason, order, and structure in the universe. The human capacity for rational thought, understanding, and augmentation, reason, discourse, and speech as a means of communication and persuasion. In latter classical thought, particularly Stoicism, a divine and immanent reason that governs the cosmos and is the source of natural law and human morality. The concept of logos has had a profound and lasting impact on Western philosophy and later influenced religious thought, particularly in Hellenistic Judaism and early Christianity. Well, I hope that for you this week there is elements of logos and understanding in your satyagraha, your Sanskrit grasping of the truth and sudden realization of an enlightenment, which hopefully you'll find through communicating with the people that are around you, who you respect and love, and who love and respect you, and you won't be stuck in a bent psychiatric ward like me, surrounded by degenerates. But if you are, you have my full sympathy, and just think about how horrible that would be if it was you in that position. There's a big difference between an eye for an eye and do unto others as you would yourself be done by. I'm not going to labour that point because it's distasteful, insensitive, and represents a lack of maybe pathos on my part. But yeah, I'm going to go out for a cigarette at 9 o'clock. I've got about enough cigarettes left for one cigarette in my tobacco pouch. Someone gave me a pinch of baccy, which was really nice of them. And I've got a vape today, so that's good. I've got a vape and a cup of tea. And I've shared with you the logos of the etymology and epistemology. I always get confused between epistemology and etymology. I don't know why. And every time I say hypnotism, except for just then, I stammer. Hypnotism. Anyway, this just sounds like rambling, nonsensical bullshit. But as a credibility vacuum, lonely sociopath, 9-time psychiatric patient Brodie McLeod isn't really a credible source of anything just at the moment. But hopefully, in the next few days, I'll be able to put some content together onto the internet. Bought myself, what did I get? I've got a USB stick and a data transfer cable and a new ring light and a 500 gigabyte hard drive. I'm going to fill these fill this hard drive up with Intel, and this USB stick, this little 128 gigabyte USB stick, going to fill that up with Intel as well, and then we're going to sell them and hopefully prove that all these people are evil who I've been trying to expose, and they'll all get locked up for years and years and years, and all the people who are suffering won't suffer anymore because they've never done anything to hurt anybody ever. And just on behalf of them, I'd just like to say fuck you to everybody who knows that they deserve a fuck you. And on that note, I wish you a good morning. Cheers.